You're listening to TNCRadio.live, Houston, Texas. This station is owned and operated by MSICO LLC, a privately held Texas corporation.
Good afternoon. Welcome to TNCRadio.live. This is the Truckers Network Radio Show. And now here's your host, Shelley Johnson.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. Yes, this is the Truckers Network Radio Show on TNCRadio.live, where we offer the entertainment, sports, weather, traffic, news, and information that commercial drivers want to hear. Speaking of entertainment, have you heard of Wayne Powers? If you like jazz and great entertainers, you're in for a treat today on TNCRadio.live. Wayne's lengthy career spans TV, radio, theater, and nightclubs. He launched his network TV career as the cop on Laverne Shirley. He was the love interest of MacKensie Phillips on One Day at a Time. He had 2 seasons with his own NBC sitcom 13 East. He also worked with Robin Williams in a comedy theater troupe, and he played Joe Esposito, Elvis's best friend, and the head of the Memphis Mafia in the ABC miniseries Elvis and Me. Wayne is an accomplished jazz vocalist, recording artist, comedic and dramatic actor, broadcaster, and voiceover artist. He has just pretty much done it all. Veterans of top West Coast nightclubs and jazz festivals with his Hoi Polloi band. They recorded a highly acclaimed 1993 CD, Plain Old Me. And in 2018, Wayne recorded his first new album with a top jazz quartet with If Love Were All. You've also heard him on many TV commercials. There's so much to cover here. Oh my gosh, I'm just thrilled. Welcome, Wayne. Thank you so much for being on the show. I'm excited to talk to you.
Hey, this sounds like a great show. I'm going to stick around myself.
There you go. You're quite the Renaissance man. I want to hear about your background. I know our listeners do too.
Well, I don't know. What do you want to know?
Well, who is Wayne Powers, and how did you evolve, and how did you get into Hollywood, and what inspired all of that?
Oh my goodness! Well, I've been a performer my whole life. I started out as a nightclub singer in New York when I was 16, and I was awful. I was really bad. But I was 16, so you got to start somewhere. And then I actually took lessons. I used to go into New York City. I lived in the suburbs. I went going to New York City once or twice a week and study with a guy named Fred Steele, who was a top vocal coach in Times Square. And he's the guy that was accredited with bringing Tony Bennett's voice back when Tony had lost his voice. And he was a vocal coach to like Steve Lawrence and Eddie Gourmet and all these other people. He's a very accomplished vocal coach to some of the big stars. And I got lucky enough to get in there and have him teach me a few things. So then I started learning actually what I was doing a little bit. And then it's followed me, all across. It's always, music has always been the first thing with me, but I've always been an actor, and I plays in high school and all. I was always knew that I had to be in show business somewhere. And then I used to have an old reel-to-reel tape recorder that I had in my bedroom, and I used to record, pretend I was on radio, and I used to do radio shows. Record
That's
on
great. Yeah.
All that stuff as a kid. I used to lip sync to Spike Jones records and, for talent shows, and did whatever, it's the point of least resistance, whatever it took. So whether it was, if the openings were in broadcasting, I was ready. If they were in theater, I was ready. If they were in acting, if they were in music, I always had something to bring to the table, because show business is a really tough business. No matter what end of it you're on, it's you spend most of your life being unemployed. And I remember when I was first out in Los Angeles, and I was just started on network television. And, and I was having a tough time paying my bills and stuff. I'm living in, in Beverly Hills, and people think I'm rich, and I'm not, and just keep trying to make ends meet. And then I did the research, and I found out that I was in the top 2% of earners in Screen Actors Guild. I was in the top 2%, and I was broke. Then you realize what a business this is.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of perspective. If people are thinking of getting into show business, people would say, well, what advice can you give me? And my advice is always don't. And,
don't.
I wouldn't let my kids get into it. But the whole reason is, I can just tell you that if there's anybody with show business designs, if I can talk you out of it, you don't deserve it, and you shouldn't be in it, because there's a lot of heartbreak and disappointment and rejection and all the stuff that goes with it, and a lot of joy. But it's a tough business, and if I can talk you out of it, you're much better off doing something else. I just know that nobody would have ever talked me out of it, because I didn't know what else I could do.
You had the passion, though,
Yeah. I'm overloaded with that, I'll tell you.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's what makes
no,
life
nothing wrong with it.
worth living.
I thrive on it. I absolutely thrive on it. And, like anything else, if I was a bricklayer, I'd be the same way. Whatever you do 100%, just dive in. I don't phone it in. I'm phoning this interview in, but just literally, not conceptually. You don't phone it in. If you're going to do it right, or just don't do it. Do something else.
When you're talking about it's a tough business, there's so much rejection. You go to audition after audition, and I've done this kind of stuff myself, so I know. I remember going to an audition, and I was told by the director, he said, "You did a great job." He said, "There's just one problem. I can't hire you." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because you look like my ex-wife." It's like, what? Not much you can do about that.
I've heard the most absurd, of course, and people don't realize how really silly some of it is and the decisions made. But I will tell you, here's a story, and this is a true story.
Uh-huh.
Now, I started out, I was doing an improv show with Robin Williams in Hollywood called Off the Wall. It was totally improvised every Friday and Saturday night. It was in a converted ballet studio with folding chairs. And we used to hang curtains over the mirrors, and the dance bars. And so, then we put a little platform stage up and folding chairs. Well, and it was on the second floor, the outdoor staircase to get up there. And there was a line every Friday and Saturday night. You had Norman Lear was showing up, and Dudley Moore and Gary Marshall. Everybody was showing up, and it was the hottest show in town. And so Robin Williams got Mork and Mindy out of that, and I got Laverne Shirley out of that without an audition. I never even auditioned.
Wow.
Crazy. They just said, hire Wayne Powers. Somebody brought my name up. The casting director, Bobby Hoffman, brought my name up. The director, Joel Zwick, who later directed My Big Fat Greek Wedding and a lot of other stuff. He directed Perfect Strangers, a lot of shows. Anyway, he was directing. He was new in town, and I had known Joel. And so I just had pizza with him as he came into town like a week or two before. And so a casting session comes up. The guy who was playing the cop had been let go, and they needed somebody to play the cop. They had this script, and they needed somebody to play the cop. And the casting director said, I got a guy, Wayne Powers. And Joel Zwick said, Wayne Powers, yeah, I know him. Hire him. That was it. And I was brought back the very next week. So I launched my television career into something. There's no way you could have planned that.
No.
Something that happens. And with no audition. Then you go and audition on stuff, and you're right for it, you don't get it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy business.
And you wonder sometimes, are you a masochist? Why am I doing this to myself?
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's because, there's the whole thing is the only reason you should be doing it is if you would never be happy doing anything else. And that's what I tell people. If I can talk you out of it, really, you shouldn't do it. You don't need it. There's a lot of psychological profiles of why people get into this business. And I'm sure, we're all needy and emotionally needy, and we all need all that love and attention. There's all that sickness throughout the business. I think it was Rod Steiger said, we actors, we're all broken children. And that resonated with me because everybody, you have to feel things in your life in order to feel them publicly for someone else's benefit.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be approximating it. You have to be living it. And that means you have to have allowed yourself to have had life experiences, both joyous and sad. I mean, tragedy and sorrow and happiness and joy and love and all those things, they're all part of the life cycle. And you got to have all the pieces of the pie in order to communicate that.
Absolutely. So what was it like to work with Robin Williams? I'm sure a lot of people want to know.
You want to see the scars? No, Robin was, he was a whirlwind. He was a dynamo. But I grew up with Jonathan Winters. Jonathan Winters was one of my best friends. In fact, my first album, Plain Old Me, in 1993, with my Hoi Polloi band back in L.A., Jonathan wrote the liner notes. He used to come and see us all the time. He loved my band and me, and he was a great guy. I just loved Jonathan. He was a dear friend, and we had our band out in L.A. There was a lot. We had because of my business and because of being in television and doing comedy and nightclubs and stuff. I knew a lot of people in the business. So when I would do a show in L.A. with my band, we had a lot of celebrities in the audience, actor friends and comedian friends and rock musician friends and jazz musician friends. everybody. Well, Jonathan used to come quite a bit. And I always would take a break during the show and go out and, with a microphone and, introduce people, celebrities in the audience, to pay them, respect and a little appreciation for showing up. And they would stand and get a, round of applause. And I used to do that. Well, I never did that with Jonathan. I would introduce all the celebrities in the audience and I'd leave Jonathan out. And then I would step off the stage with a microphone. I'd say, but I've often found that if you just walk up to anybody in the audience and you strike up a conversation, very often you'll find a very interesting person. And I go up to Jonathan, of course, and I say, hello, sir, what's your name? And you never knew he'd be an auto mechanic or the Pope, or you never knew what he was going to be. Yeah. It was craziness. But the audience would just eat it up. And, and everybody would wonder, he didn't introduce, doesn't he know Jonathan Winters is here? Because you would see, they would see him in the audience.
Sure.
And I would purposely leave him out. I introduced everybody except him. It was great.
That's great. So how did you get into a troupe with Robin Williams? Was that just happenstance, or?
Well, again, happenstance. I was doing some theater, they call non-equity theater. It was equity waiver. So, I was in Actors Equity, which is the theater union for actors, for theater, live theater. And, but they have small, in LA for showcase purposes, they have small little, under 99 seat theaters and smaller that are equity waiver, meaning that you don't have to get an equity contract and the actors can work for nothing, very small pittance as a showcase. I was doing some of those, and Rose Gramalia, boy, I haven't even thought of that name in a long time. She was an amazing woman. And, she was a casting director for Laugh-In at the time. And so she got Robin Williams onto Laugh-In with George Schlatter, George Schlatter Productions. They were, and she saw me in a show, and she said, you really ought to be in this group. And here's the director, Dee Marcus, and you ought to go over there and meet her. And so I went over there and I met her, and we had a great time. We got along great. Saw their show; it was amazing. And they wanted me to join the group. So there's only 8 of us in the group, one of which was Robin Williams and Michael Feinstein, who's, now a big star. He was our substitute piano player.
Wow.
And we couldn't get the real person. And we had John Ritter would come and guest with us, and Betty Thomas from Hill Street Blues. And a lot of people would come and guest with us. And then the audience was always celebrities. It was amazing. I was very intimidated. I had never done improv before, and I was scared to death, to be honest with you. But jump in and just, and you learn as you go.
Sure.
And I wound up teaching improv at the improvisation in Hollywood, Bud Frieden's place.
That's great. My goodness.
Debbie Reynolds' studio.
How exciting.
Great vehicle. Yeah. It was an exciting time. It was a very exciting time. There was in the comedy world and in the music world, there's a lot of exciting things happening.
Absolutely.
I went out to Los Angeles and wound up working for Henry Mancini out of nowhere while I was looking for something to do.
Wow. Oh, my goodness.
Go into it.
You can name drop all over the place here, Wayne. This is great.
Well, I'm sorry to do that, but,
Oh, no, it's wonderful.
But these were amazing people to me, and still are. And, I have, they were profound influence on me in so many ways. I was very fortunate that I got to work with, some of the all-time greats, and got to meet some of the all-time greats from Sinatra to Sammy Davis to a lot of the musicians that played for him.
What wonderful mentors.
To Carmen McRae. And I got to meet all these people, and some of them I got to work with.
Sure.
And some of them I just learned from just being with them. I sat on the floor of Carmen McRae's dressing room while she wanted to record a song that I wrote. We would sit, and we were arguing over the lyrics. So every night she was performing at a club in LA, and I would go every night. There's only one chair in her dressing room, so I sat on the floor and would sit and talk, and she did most of the talking, and I just did a lot of the listening. And so you just get to, as a little wide-eyed kid, you learn from some of the all-time greats, and I just treasure those opportunities. I was very, very fortunate to have fall in my lap, but I used every one of them, and for learning something and for understanding the bigger picture.
And that's what it's all about. We have to go to break here. We're going to be playing one of your songs, If Love Were All, and I definitely want to be able to talk about that when we come back. We're talking with Wayne Powers, jazz vocalist, actor, entertainer, broadcaster, Renaissance man here on the Truckers Network Radio Show. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly. Stay tuned for more coming up.
Affectionate and dear, cares would be ended if I knew that she wanted to have me near. But I believe that since my life began, the most I've had is just a talent to amuse. Hey ho, if love were
For the latest in traffic, weather, and information, catch the Morning Grind weekdays right here on tncradio.live. You're listening to the Truckers Network Radio Show here on tncradio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly, and we're talking with Wayne Powers, jazz vocalist, actor, entertainer, voiceover artist, and broadcaster. He's pretty much done it all. We were just playing Wayne's song, If Love Were All. I wanted to chat a little bit about that, and then we've got a really cool treat from Laverne Shirley, too. Wayne, what's the song, If Love Were All, and how did that all come together?
Well, we all have our bucket lists, and it had been 25 years, I realized, since I actually recorded an album, because I'd been, I'd gone and spent time acting, then supposed to spend a lot of time broadcasting, and I was only singing part-time. And then when I left my last radio station in Michigan, I said, I'm going to do what I want to do, and I'm not going to be, controlled by corporate radio people somewhere. And I'm going to go back to my first love, and and it's time for me to record another album. It had been 25 years. I've lived 25 more years of life. I have 25 more years of experience bring to the music and to the lyrics. Now, I know more now. I've experienced more. I've lived more now, and I want to bring that. There are things I still need to sing about. I had just I'd gone through a divorce. And kind of unexpectedly, and not one that I really wanted, to be honest with you. And I was at a very low point, to be honest with you, emotionally and physically as well. I just didn't, I wasn't myself. I'd let the whole thing get me down. I was down for quite a while, and a long time, actually. And I said, you know what? I need to sing about this. I need to process this. So I wanted to sing an album of torch songs, of sad songs, of songs of love lost. And, Sinatra did that with albums like Only the Lonely and, Wee Small Hours of the Morning. There's songs that are made for those beautiful torch songs, what we call saloon songs. Mm-hmm. They're songs that are great poetry because they they touch an emotional chord that everyone has felt in their lives in some way, shape, or form. So everyone can relate to it. And like the blues, they're not songs to make you sad. The blues is actually a joyful thing, and so are torch songs when you look at them this way. They're actually a way to process the sadness that we've experienced in our lives. We process it through music, and then it's a part of us, and it becomes okay. Well, I wanted an album of that. In the middle of putting this album together, I met the woman who became my second wife. Fell madly in love with her, and here I have this album I'm about to record that's all about sad songs and love lost, and I'm not. I don't feel that way anymore.
Sure.
So I said, well, I can't. I got to sing about this other stuff because it's still inside of me, but sure. I want to sing about something else too. So I split the album in two, and the first half of the album we recorded it all in sequence. So the musicians live in the studio, the musicians as we played it together, all together, no overdubbing and all the other stuff. And then we did them in sequence. So there's a beginning, middle, and an end to the album. The album starts out with the poignancy of knowing that this relationship is in trouble, and then it's love lost, and it's the sad songs and every element of what you go through when you're in that. And then there's a transition song. And If Love Were All, the song you're going to play, was actually written by Noel Coward. And it's a transition song. It's a sad song. It's very short, and it's very reflective. But the song that follows this on the album begins a new life of joy and happiness and love. So the album is called If Love Were All. And if love were all, it would have to include love lost and love found. And that's what the album is about.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for that insight on the album, and I like the way it's all structured, and it's pretty tremendous that you were able to do all of this live, no overdubbing. That's not done a lot today.
No, it's not, and people just don't play together. Everybody wants to do, you put the rhythm tracks down first, and you put in the horns, and you put vocals down last, and the reason I don't do that is because it becomes mechanical. It's not organic anymore, and great music, to me, is what's in between the notes as much as what the notes are. It's the give and take and the pull and tug between the musicians, everybody playing together, and it all kind of working. You can't do that. You make it clinical when you divide it up like that, because the people that are recording second, the first people can't adjust for them. It's only one-way adjustment. And so it's not organic anymore. Yeah. And you lose, my music is about emotion. It's about feeling. It's about storytelling. It's about communicating something to the listener to make them feel something. It's not just notes, and it's not just me, with musical masturbation. I call it, where everybody's just kind of bending their voice to show off what they can do. It's not that.
There you go.
I'm telling a story, and I'm an actor and a singer, and I want to communicate something that I've felt and lived through and share it with the listener. And that's what we do.
That's awesome. We have a segment here you shared with us from Laverne Shirley when you were on the show. It's basically the girls are handcuffed together after an all-night protest at the dog pound, and you play Officer Bagatelle?
Bagatelli, yeah.
Bagatelli, I'm sorry. And
no, but it's purposely, it's a joke because, a bagatelle is, a meaningless little nuance. It's a nothing. And he spells it bagatelle, but he pronounces it bagatelli.
Okay. And he's off duty, out of uniform, and he's going to invite Laverne out for breakfast?
Next day, and actually, there's an interesting story behind this. It's called a tag scene. So if you remember, these shows would end, and then they'd come back just before the opening credits with a little 30-second or 1-minute tag scene. And then the final credits would roll. That's the way the shows were structured. Well, we had this show, and they didn't have a tag scene. And so I said, this is my second week on Laverne and Shirley. And I said, I stuck my neck out. I said, hey, I got an idea for a tag scene. How about if I come back and invite Laverne to breakfast? I'll come in, I had a uniform, and then, and then she wants to go to breakfast, but they're handcuffed, Laverne and Shirley, and I don't want to take Shirley because I don't want to pay for 2 breakfasts. So that was an improvised scene. that just came out of the top of my head, and the girls were great about it.
That's awesome.
And we just did it, and the audience loved it, and they wound up using that as the tag team for the show.
Very clever.
And you're just going to hear that when I come back the next day, and these girls have been spending the whole night in the pound, handcuffed together. Very funny stuff. Those girls were amazing together.
Awesome.
And then I come back in my civvies.
Well, let's go to that segment. This is from Laverne and Shirley.
Fazio.
Oh, Bagatelle, what are you down here? Wanted to see us suffer?
No. You've been here all night. You must be starving, huh?
Starving? I could eat a horse. Sorry, Cheryl.
Anyway, how about a little breakfast, just you and me? I'll spring for it.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, come
Wait
on.
wait a second. Could you unlock us?
Oh, I can't do that. I'm off duty. You'll have to wait till afternoon for that.
What? I don't want to go to breakfast.
Swinging for one breakfast.
Now he won't even pay.
That was great. That was a lot of forethought, actually. I mean, not only did you come up with a great idea, but you got yourself on camera again, too. That's always
Yeah,
good.
I sure did, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And established that little love interest between me and Laverne, which, was kind of fun. And but it was, you're dealing with such creative forces. That show was, you're dealing with Penny Marshall and Cindy Williams. Cindy came out of American Graffiti. Penny, was Gary Marshall's, sister, and then you've got Lenny and Squiggy. So much incredible talent that was there. And people were the number one or number two show at that point every week. It was like 1978. So, it was Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley used to switch off number one and number two in the ratings every week. But we were in the top 10 every week with that show. It was crazy. It was like it was the hottest show in town. And so there was all that energy there and these wonderful creative people and the writers and the producers and the energy, the creative energy was amazing. And I think we had Squiggy and no Lenny. So it was just crazy. When that show was hot, it was hot. It was like getting your graduate degree in situation comedy training. It was from just being around them.
That had to have been the experience of a lifetime, really. I mean, what a great break to start out your career with Laverne and Shirley, and certainly with Robin Williams. I mean, the training ground was just tremendous.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, Robin was amazing. Well, I was saying earlier, I grew up with Jonathan Winters. So, when Robin learned that I knew Jonathan Winters, that was his idol, and he wouldn't leave me alone after that. So that was, but to me, Jonathan was the real deal, and Robin, very tragic story, but Robin was a brilliant entertainer and a brilliant mind, but he very difficult to describe. But Jonathan was very different. People always say, "Oh, they were the same." They were very different. I worked with both of them, knew them both very well. Jonathan was an organic genius. Robin was a master technician. Very big difference. They're both great. I don't mean to undermine either one of them, but they were both hilariously funny and difficult to work with, because they were so quick. Doing an improvised scene with Robin, if you could, get a word in, it was great. If you could set him up and stuff,
Sure.
Not easy, but always rewarding. And one time I got him to actually break up on stage and break character. I made him laugh, which I'll remember forever.
That's great. So did you remain friends with Robin? You were back and forth in contact and all of that?
Yeah, a little bit, but you know what? It's weird. Hollywood is very weird. I was at Robin's first wedding. Would hang out at the Comedy Store at the improvisation afterwards, and we each would perform. And he did stand up more, and I just, I did sketch comedy more, but we'd hang out at the bar and all that kind of stuff. But we weren't like bosom buddies. We were friends and associates. But then, as Mork and Mindy became huge, I mean, he was a sensation. He wasn't just a hit; he was a sensation. It was outrageous. It was crazy. And when that happened, suddenly his friends were, De Niro and all that. And people, a lot of people don't like to be reminded from where they came. I'll just tell you that.
It becomes almost like Hollywood royalty, right? They have a different
well,
they
it
have a caste
does.
system.
And when you're hanging out with John Belushi and all those people, which he was doing, I mean, he was there the night John Belushi died.
Yeah.
You know, they cover all that up, a lot of people, but that's just what happened. He was in the middle of all that, as we all were. It was a very crazy time. You know, Hollywood was a cocaine capital of the world in those days. And everybody swore, cocaine wasn't addictive, you know. How crazy. People were just nuts, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The music business and the comedy business was all drug and, you know, laced. And you wonder how any of us ever survived those things. A lot of us didn't, but we came through it. And I knew for me, I got out of all that, you know, when my first wife became pregnant and I knew I was going to be a dad. Mm-hmm. Suddenly there's a major gear shift that changed in me and I had to walk away from all that.
You completely moved out of Hollywood, didn't you?
Yeah, I moved out of Hollywood after I lost my house in the Northridge earthquake. 4:31 in the morning. I pushed my family out in the front lawn, and things are collapsing and stuff. And
wow!
And I looked at my wife. I looked at my two boys, and there's not a scratch on anyone. And I'd been wanting to get my kids out of there because there's gang activity and stuff going on. There's no place to raise kids.
Sure.
And I grew up in a neighborhood where you could go ride your bike. You didn't, you know, you're worried about being home when the streetlights came on, or your mother will kill you. That's how to go ride your bike. Not ride down to the corner of the sidewalk and don't turn the corner where Daddy can't see you, and then ride. That's no way to grow up. Right. And I wanted, you know, I was at a point in my career where I was not a superstar. Okay, but you know what? I had done everything I set out to do. I started in a sitcom. I, you know, played top jazz festivals, top jazz clubs. I didn't need to prove anything to myself. Mm-hmm. And so my bucket list was, sure, I want to do more. Sure, I can do more. Sure, I could do bigger and better. But that's not what's most important, because you got two little guys that are depending on me to grow up. And this is not a place for them to grow up. And it's one thing if you don't know any better. If you do know better and you don't do the right thing, then I don't know how you look yourself in the mirror. So I said, I'm giving up my career, and I'm going to get my family and put them in a place where my kids can grow up. And then I can always recap my career or do something else. I'll figure something out. So I moved them all to Charlotte, North Carolina. I wound up doing radio there. And I opened a tea house there. And we had one of the country's first tea houses. And I ran there for, the company still is alive. It's called T-Rex, T-E-A-R-E-X.
Well, so that's a clever name.
You can get the finest tea on the planet Earth from them. And at T-Rex.com. There's my commercial right there.
There you go.
But anyway, so I lived for 20 years in Charlotte. I used to sing. I would sing occasionally, but very occasionally, and you know, but my kids grew up, and after they were grown, and I went through a divorce, and I didn't need to be there anymore, and I went back and started doing stuff for me again.
And that's what it's about. And I bet your kids are really proud of you. I mean, they've got a lot to look up to.
You'll have to answer them, but you know, I hope they are. I mean, I really do. I hope they are. You know, but kids today, they don't. You know, it's very different than when I was growing up.
Oh,
but yeah, I mean, I love my boys, and you know, and now I have. You know, I'm remarried, and I've got another second family. I've got an 11-year-old stepson who's, you know, they say stepson, but he's a son. We're in Indiana, and I moved the family out of Chicago. We're in Chicago, and I moved them out of there, and we bought this historic mansion in Muncie, Indiana. It was built in 1902, and it's over 10,000 square feet. It's got a third-story ballroom, and it had been partially restored, and we're finishing the restoration. And I can do house concerts on the third floor. I've got a huge stage. I could put a big band on the stage, a big dance floor. We built a wet bar.
That's
you know,
awesome.
Yes, and it's a beautiful, historic, gorgeous place. And I'm about 45 minutes out of Indianapolis.
So you're not dealing with a bunch of congestion and stuff. That's great, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I just was getting tired of the high taxes.
And that too,
you know, paying $60 to park your car to go to dinner in Chicago.
You buy it back,
Crazy.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you don't even have an appetite. You don't even have a cocktail. You already spent $60.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Come on, folks. There's something wrong with this picture. I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
So I'm back around real people again. I love, you know, I was called L.A. the city of faux front buildings and faux front people. And, you know, I like people that, you know, that I can just take at face value. You know, authentic is important to me. It's authentic in my music. It's authentic in the people I like in my circle. It's authentic in myself. I demand that of myself. And when I don't, you know, hold up to it, I come down on myself pretty hard. You know, you got to be real, be authentic. Yeah. Life is very short. And, you know, it's fine to please people, but please people authentically. Don't be something you're not. And
there you go.
You know, because then whatever joy you get is not authentic joy. It's like, you know, it's like gambling with counterfeit money. If you can only win counterfeit money, what's the point?
Exactly. Yep. Good analogy.
Play with real money. You gotta have authenticity, and then the rewards. Everything is real, and you know, we live in a world that everything is cyber and, you know,
fake.
Well, everything is. You know, I looked at the new cars. You know, I like Mercedes, and you know, and I have an older Mercedes, and you know, I have actual gauges. I looked at the new Mercedes. It's just a screen with like pictures of a speedometer. I don't want a screen with pictures. I want a real speedometer. Thank you.
Right.
Going to spend that money for a car. Give me the real thing. If I want a screen, I'll buy a TV.
Right. If I wanted a cartoon card, I would want a cartoon price along with it, right?
Oh, crazy. I don't understand it. Same. It's, you know, it's like a picture of something is as good as the real thing. Well, I'm sorry, it's not.
I agree.
I'm a dinosaur that way. I like to read books that have pages that you turn. I don't like to read books on a screen. You know, I don't like this virtual reality. I like real reality,
and that's what we're losing.
Real people, and I like, you can tell it's hard to shut me up. I like to communicate.
No, this is great. I love your stories here. We do need to go to break, but what we're actually going to be doing is featuring another one of your songs called All of Me. Okay. And when we come back, I'd like to be able to talk about that a little bit, what inspired that song and everything else. You're listening to the Truckers Network radio show on tncradio.live. We're talking with Wayne Powers, jazz vocalist, actor, entertainer, voiceover artist, and broadcaster. He's pretty much done it all. Stay tuned right here on tncradio.live.
All of me, why not take all of me? Can't you see I am no good without you? Take my arms, I want to lose them. Take these lips, I'll never use them. Your goodbye left me with eyes that cry. How can I go on, dear, without you? You took the part that once was my heart. So why not take all of me? And so I'm pleading, come on back, pretty baby, come back. Don't you know I can't go on and live alone without you? I beg you, darling, won't you think about my fate before it's too late? Don't be mean, I'll go insane. You don't want to have no crazy person on your conscience. Please understand, I got no backup plan on how to live without your love. You walked off very hasty, drove me nearly crazy, got me crying like a baby, no ambition, very lazy, oh, cared for nothing at all. Oh, I can't get you off my mind, dream about you all the time. Must you be so mean and so unkind? Come and set me free, come on, get the rest of me. Come on, come on, come on. wanna take these arms, I wanna lose them. Come on, take these chops, you know, I'll never use them. Baby, don't you understand the shape I'm in? I got no way to win unless you just remember I'm here in need of happiness. Dear, you took control. Yeah, you took control of my heart and soul. Now you heard my plea. I wanna be free. Come back and get all of me.
Want to advertise on TNCRadio.live? Take advantage of great discounts for 2021. Check out the sponsors page at TNCRadio.live or send email to info@TNCRadio.live.
This is the Truckers Network radio show on TNCRadio.live. I'm Shelley Johnson with Tom Kelly, and we're talking with Wayne Powers, jazz vocalist, actor, entertainer, and broadcaster. We were just listening to the song All of Me, which is off his album. Wayne, did you want to talk a little bit about that particular song and why you chose it?
Yeah, well, it's one of the legendary, classic tune. I mean, it's
Sure.
Great American Songbook. I chose that song because we start out, very rubato. It's a very sad song, where the guy's brokenhearted. Why don't you take all of me? You took my heart. You took everything. Take the rest of me too. But there's something comical and fun about it. So we started out. It was a very sad tune, and then we swing the heck out of it, and I cleaned that up. But we really swing it hard, and I go into vocalese and scatting, and it's just a whole really hard swing, and it's an audience pleaser. I mean, we close shows with that number a lot. It's a really fun song about a sad subject, and that's why I loved it, because it had that duplicity about it. You can sing it as a ballad, and you can sing it as a really swinging tune, and to think, hey, you took the rest of me, take the rest of me too. You only got the good stuff. Take the rest of me too.
There you go. Yeah.
You can. There's two ways to look at it, and we cover both ways on that song, which I like.
That's great.
Were you a fan of the movie?
What's that?
Were you a fan?
Yeah, I like the movie. Yeah, the movie was fine, but that song was a legendary song for many decades before that movie was ever.
Yeah.
Classic song, no doubt. You also shared another scene from a sitcom. You had your own sitcom called 13 East, and the scene that you sent us, the audio, you are a cheapskate hospital administrator?
Yeah, it was the hospitals. It was the precursor of nurses.
Okay.
And it was when Brandon Tartikoff was still running NBC, and he was a big fan. And Scully Mitchell was the producer. Scully was an African-American comedian who switched to the other side of the screen. He was a pioneer, both in stand-up comedy, coming up with like Flip Wilson and Cosby and all those guys, Godfrey Cambridge, all those guys on the Sullivan Show. But then he was a pioneer behind the scenes, becoming a producer, director, writer, where African-Americans didn't have that opportunity. He made it for himself. And this was one of his shows. I did a couple of shows with him. He's a dear, dear, dear friend. And this was, I played a hospital administrator, real cheapskate. And the head nurse was a heavy-set, overweight woman, Diana Bellamy. She was she's passed on. My gosh, she was wonderful. We had great chemistry together. And so I'm trying to get my cheapskate self is trying to get these big contributions from one of the patients who's a cosmetics company heiress, kind of like Estee Lauder or something like that.
Sure.
And she's got tons of money. Well, I'm trying to get a contribution to the hospital from her. So I take all the stuff out of the nurse's break room, the refrigerator, all the stuff, and I put it into her private room. to really just, butter her up. And I'm there painting her toenails and all this stuff. And the head nurse comes in and she's had it. And so we have our little Donnybrook here. And that's what this scene is. Very quick.
Okay. Well, let's listen to that scene from 13 East with Wayne Powers.
I am only going to say this one time.
So am I. How the hell do you expect me to do my job with you interfering all the time? And you're letting that cow eat my moose pie.
All chocolate moose pies look alike. How do you know that's your moose pie?
The the same way a mother moose can pick out her baby moose from the herd.
Look, I am one toenail away from getting a big contribution from that cold-creamed queen. And you're not gonna blow it for me. So you listen and listen good, Maggie Poole. If that woman in there tells you to sing, you're Ethel Merman. If she tells you to dance, you're Ginger Rogers. If she tells you to run up and down the halls naked, you're fired.
That was a funny bit from 13 East. Wayne, I bet you were over the moon when you had your own TV show. I mean, it sounds like you
I loved
a
it.
really great group there.
We did, and they gave us, as the show went on, we got into our second season, and suddenly I was getting a lot more green light to come up with stuff. And I would, it's a recurring gag that I came up with of me walking into the elevator doors, kind of getting my comeuppance as being such a, sitcom villain. You guys got to see the guy get his,
Sure,
after he dishes it out. I would come up with lines like, I was trying to get the head nurse to get a physical, and she didn't want to go for a physical. And I finally said, well, you have to go. There's no option, and you can go right now. In fact, I went down there and had the technician fit the X-ray machine with a wide-angle lens. So she would. She would have to get even with me. So I pressed the elevator door to open the elevator door to go back to my office, and then she would distract me. I'd turn around to deal with her, and then I turned around again, and the elevator doors had already closed, and I'd walk right into it. So that was a running gag that people just loved because they knew it was coming. They laughed when they knew it was coming. They laughed when it happened, and they laughed at the reactions. It was like 3 laughs every time we did it.
What fun! Plus,
it was great fun. It really was.
You had
and it's in front of a live audience.
Oh yeah,
just a live audience though. I love performing in front of a live audience. That's why I'm going out on tour. A little short tour southeast.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about that.
Well, I'm going to be in. Let's see. This next week, I'm going to be up in Indianapolis with a big band. But then I'm starting a tour on the 22nd of October. I'll be at Middle C Jazz, Friday and Saturday, 22nd, 23rd, 2 shows each night, which is probably one of the top jazz clubs in the country. It's called Middle C Jazz, and it's middlecjazz.com. And I'll be there with Ziad Quartet, which is the quartet that I recorded with primarily. And they're fantastic. And we'll be there then. And then right after that, I go up to Asheville, Black Mountain at the White Horse with a big
pretty
band.
area.
Yeah, and then I'll be down in I've got Atlanta and Jacksonville, Florida, and a few other places that are coming after that. But it'll all be October, beginning of November. But Middle C Jazz I'm real excited because I've never played this. A relatively new room, and it's already one of the top rooms in the country. It's a great listening. There's not a bad seat in the house, and it's really a fantastic place to play and a fantastic place to be played to. They have some top talent that comes through there, national talent that comes through. So I'm honored to be part of their roster.
This is exciting. So where can people find information about your concert schedule or your tour schedule? And
just go to
WaynePowers.com,
WaynePowers.com. And on Facebook / Wayne Powers altogether. I'm the first one. And I'd love to have them, get in contact with me, or, if the albums can be gotten on, Amazon or wherever, and would love to have them come and see perform. And if you actually come to one of my club dates or tour dates, please come up and say hello and tell me that you heard us on the Truckers Network. I just love being, I used to do radio, and one of my favorite radio gigs was midnight till 6 in the morning. And that's because we're on a 50,000 watt clear channel station, WBT. And I used to get phone calls from Canada to Cuba, and a lot of truckers are out there. And I still love keeping them company. So I hope we did some of that today for you folks, because I do a lot of driving, and I can't tell you, I think the biggest thing I ever drove was a 26-foot Freightliner, and I almost destroyed a parked car.
Oh no! Okay.
Oh my God!
Whoops.
So anyway, my hat's off to all you guys that are really responsible for the lifeline of goods that travel around through this country.
They really are.
Appreciate you.
Well, we appreciate having you on the show. You've got some fascinating stories, some great music. And wow, I really do mean it when I say Renaissance man. You've done pretty much everything.
Well, I'm not done yet. I'm still doing it.
There you go. See? And you can tell us, maybe come back and tell us what you want to be when you grow up, right?
I'm never going to grow up. That's the whole key.
There you go. Good motto.
Hey, it's a pleasure, and I wish you guys the very best, and thanks for visiting today. I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much. Wayne Powers here on TNCRadio.live. Stay tuned for more coming up. Thank you for listening to another great interview on TNCRadio.live and the Truckers Network Radio Show. All of the material you hear on TNCRadio.live, on our website, our broadcasts, or our podcasts are copyrighted. There can be no distribution without the express consent of TNCRadio.live and its partners. For inquiries, write us at info@tncradio.live.